Oh, hello again, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for visiting once again. And so, for those of you tuned in to see a picture of a car here, and now you're seeing an aeroplane, I'll just say I'll talk about this at the end. And if you don't want to watch it, of course, then of course you don't have to. But before we go any further, I'll bring this in so that you can see what we're talking about today. But to those of you visiting for the first time, I'd just like to say thank you very much for doing so, and I hope that we can see each other again. Do feel free to subscribe to the channel and hit, I think, the notification bell and all that kind of thing. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help the channel to grow, so I'd be much obliged if you do that. Anyway, I'm prompted to get this particular model, and I will build this one. It's not just going to go into a collection and sit and gather dust. Because first of all, I think it's a very attractive car, and I have always done so. Secondly, I'm a little bit dismayed by what the people at Jaguar think they're doing at the moment by rebranding away from the traditional Jaguar logo to something new, and how they've chosen to show the world this. But I've written a piece on my Substack about this, and I've linked it in the in the remarks section at the top, so you can zip across to that if you want to, and I give you my thoughts about this then. But I'm going to build this little model here, and it's a 1/24th scale E-type Jaguar. A classic car by any measure, I think. You know, you can't fail to recognise one of these when you see it, particularly with its long bonnet and so on. And you know, I can talk a little bit about it, but not too much. And those of you who model cars will know much more about this than I do, and good for you. And feel free to correct me when I go wrong, because it's undoubted that I will. So it's 1/24th scale. It's even got the OK of Jaguar here, which is lovely. This is called the Leaper device, by the way, which is the leaping Jaguar. But there we are. So what we'll do is I'll bring the box out of harm's way, and we'll look at the instructions and do my usual thing of going through the instructions and then looking at the bits and pieces. So there's quite a few parts in here, so what we can see is tucked away and buried away. Oh no, we've got some chrome parts as well, and some transparent parts. But as you can see from the back, this is fairly detailed. You can see it is left-hand drive, which is slightly irksome to me, because being from the United Kingdom, we drive on the right. I'd rather have had a right-hand drive variant of this, but I don't think there is one, but it doesn't seem that there is anyway. But not to worry. So what we'll do is, without further ado, I'll put the box away for a minute, and then we can, and then we'll put the sprues away, and then we can take a look at the sprues as we need to. As I say, with 144 odd parts, something 142 parts, there's quite a lot of work to do in this, I would say. But I think really the key challenge is going to be actually getting a high shine on these two body components here, which, as you can see, come in two halves, very carefully put together there. We'll have a look at them in a second, but let's have a look at the instructions. So we've got the, shall we say, slightly more modern Jaguar instructions, and we have some number plates and so on and so forth, and some other bits and pieces here that we can look at. So what we'll do is we'll put that away over there just for a minute, and there's also another piece of paper protecting this, which I strongly suspect is the safety advice. Yeah, so don't drink your bath water, don't run with scissors, you know, that kind of thing. All important stuff for some people, I would guess, but there we are, and we should be tolerant. So there we go. So here we have the instructions. It's on slightly shiny paper, but I don't think that's an issue, is it? Revell call it a level 3. I believe this levelling here is related to how many parts there are in a kit, but again, those who are more knowledgeable than I can correct me, and we'll have a look through here. There's some colour call outs here, black silk matte, aluminium, and so on and so forth. So this is quite detailed in this regard. You know, they're recommending decal fix and so on and so forth, and some chrome paints as well, chrome parts too. There's some sprue call outs here, A, B, C call outs. Then there's D, which is the lower body here, and E. So it's quite a lot of red coloured sprue parts. And then we have F, G, H, I, J, which is the clear parts, and then T, which is your T for tyres, I suspect, but there we are. And of course you would expect them to be numbered 4, and so they are. So let's have a quick look then. A lot of components here that won't really be seen in the model, I suspect, because the bonnet, I think, doesn't look like it will come up, but we're assembling the engine. So this was Jaguar's straight 6 engine with, I think, a double overhead cam setup, which is roughly the same engine they used, I think, from 1961 to probably into the 90s in some of their cars, I think. So you'll remember the 2.8, 3.4 and 4.2 litre Jaguar XJ6s that used a straight 6 engine. There was a V12, I think, engine, but again, I can be corrected by those people who know Jaguar terribly well. I loved them from afar, and I speak a little of that in my piece on Substack, but I did keep a Jaguar once, which was a company car, or in fact a couple of times, but I won't steal my thunder from that. But anyway, we're looking at stages 1, 2, 3 and 4, which appears to be assembly of the engine and various components like the fan belts and so on, exhaust bits and pieces and all the rest of that kind of thing, and probably some opportunities for some detailing with some cables and wires here, that sort of thing. It would depend on how I'm disposed towards this as to how I do that, but we're then looking at taking D13 off the sprue here, which is, we'll just have a quick look at that whilst we're there. We can see that that there. 1/24 is a big scale, actually, I would have to say, and there's the larger the scale, the less places there are to hide. So I think that this is going to represent some, as I've said, some challenges, and we'll see how we go. But so that's the D sprue, which is the lower chassis, which includes the seats and so on and so forth, and I think it's nicely detailed. The plastic feels nice. It's, you know, in as much as one can say that. But this whole arrangement is really nicely put together. It's a nicely moulded piece of plastic there, so it'll save an awful lot of assembly work there, but it's going to have to be removed from this D sprue really carefully. It is numbered D13, and we can see that there. If we zero straight in on that, you can see that, so there we go. But there we go, so that's one of the red sprues there, and we're attaching this, I would guess that's the final drive with the differential there, onto the lower part of the chassis here. Probably some pre-painting to be done. Oh dear, we're into the realms of painting on sprue, aren't we? I better not do that. I may engage the wrath of Oxley, possibly. Bless him, good old Peter. He's a good guy, and he does some good things. Go and visit him; he'll be worthwhile. He's worth a visit, no question. But yeah, so this is need to be primed, I suspect. And then there's we're into B components here, which look like they'll be light grey in colour. Yeah, all the rest of the A, B, C components are light grey in colour, so that's these here. So we'll be adding detail in so that people can lift up the car and look underneath and see these things. So yeah, I think we'll pay some attention to this kind of thing. I believe that would be a good idea. And we have A components when we put the suspension in. So this is some sort of double spring suspension here. See if I can just fold this paper over and you can see this. But some of these are coloured red. There's good colour call outs here for the ignorant like me, and I'm going to follow these, I think, pretty slavishly, to be honest with you. And it looks like it's an awful lot of, shall we say, paint as you go. And I think that's reasonable, I would have to say. I think that's a good thing to do. So I think it looks like by step 8 we might very much be pretty much completed with the rear section of the underbody parts here. We can see a drive shaft going in there, which goes through the this is called the transmission tunnel, isn't it? I think something along that line. Front wheel drive of cars, of course, don't have a transmission tunnel, do they? So there we go. Yes, so there we go. Anyway, exhaust pipes running from front to back. We have an exhaust from the exhaust manifold to the silencers to the twin exhaust pipes, which give that the back that very, or the rear of the car, that very uniform, nicely put together look. And of course the rear sections will have been chrome. This is calling out C on the paint. So let's have a quick look and see what C is. ABC, silver metallic it's saying, so yeah, silver metallic. I suppose we could use a polished chrome. We could use that sort of stuff. I guess that would probably work quite well. This is an AK Extreme Metal polished chrome. I think that would probably work quite well, although one thing I can tell you I wouldn't be using is jet exhaust, so that's not going to happen. But so there for step 9, I've talked enough about that. And step 10, we're putting in the engine and gearbox here, feeding through the transmission tunnel and linking up, of course, with the drive shaft. And you can see that here, and that's being shown here very carefully. So we're going to have to attend carefully to that. Step 11, exhaust pipe, and then we're on to step 12, which is, that looks probably is the front steering components, I would guess. I think that's probably the case. Then we have the, yeah, that's the steering connection. Would it be called a trunnion? I don't suppose it would, to be honest with you. Again, I'm sure that Nigel, over at Nigel's modelling bench, if he's looking at this, will be shouting at me, saying, "No, you idiot, it's a such and such," and bless him for doing so. If he comes back to me and says it's a such and such in the comments, then I'll be delighted to hear from him. That would be really quite useful. Then let's fold that back a bit there. So there we are. So yeah, there we go. So 13, 14, manufacturing these sections and then installing them in the front of the vehicle, just in that section there, I would say. So that matches that. So yeah, that's the size of that. That looks quite good. Let's see if we can find these engine components, shall we? I think that's probably a thing we ought to have a little look at whilst we're here. I think we ought to favour the thing here. I think that would be a good idea. Here we go. So we can see, let's have a look. Yeah, that's one of the engine and gearbox components here. That is yeah, nicely detailed there. I think that doesn't look too bad at all. I like the look of the steering wheel, actually. Look at this. This is rather good. I'm jumping the gun a bit here, but it's even got the little holes in the radius sections. We'll call them that, shall we? That's rather nice. But I am drawn, of course, to looking at these springs here, which they are detailed in some way, but I suspect a larger scale kit would have a spring shaft and then a separate spring. So this is going to call for some careful painting there, I would say. I would imagine somebody somewhere's done an upgrade kit for that. So actually it was worthwhile looking at that. So we'll just zero back out. Forgive the somewhat piecemeal way of doing this. So we're advised to paint this K, which is red, so it'll be prime and then paint. I think I might look and see if British Racing Green was a colour for these cars, because I think a British Racing Green might be rather a nice colour for this. But I'll do my research on this before I go do anything else, and we'll see how that goes. But I think I'd rather like that. So this obviously must be the engine bulkhead here, I would suggest. And then at step 17 we're into putting the top end of the, I suppose, the engine supports and the steering supports and so on and so forth. Yeah, looks like that to me. And then putting this other, Nigel helped me out here, this component here. There's a decal advice here, or decal, depending on which part of the world you come from. So that needs to get put on. There is a nice amount of detail in this car. I think that's fair to say. And then as we move into step 19, we are then looking at, I wonder if these are carburetors. They might be. Again, that's certainly possible. One of the things I like about other kit makers than Revell, and I don't like about Revell, is they don't tend to put this sort of information in. Revell aren't the only company that don't put this information in. You know, there's Revell are the same. They don't really put very much information in at all, and I think that could do with being made better. So there's a squib knocket being assembled here of some description, and then something else that looks like a carburetor but clearly isn't. It'll be something else. And there's yet another squib knocket being assembled here, and then we're being advised to put some things together here from some section or another, having painted it. But we're heavily into engine compartment additions here. There's even battery here. That's a nice little thing to add in there, and we might want to put some battery cables in there. Get them we'll have to get them correct scale width, of course. Again, with 1/24 scale, there's nowhere to hide. You've got to get that absolutely right. Here's that position from that component from earlier that needs to be put in. Perhaps that's an air box or something like that sprays warm air into the vehicle from a heater matrix. That's probably one of the things to do. And hurrah, that's a radiator. I know what that is. So there we are, and radiator goes straight onto there in step 28. And then we're adding these other components in, whatever that might be, I don't know. And then what I think might be, yes, looks like these probably are carburetors. So I was correct in my guess here, and there's 3 of them by all outward appearances. 2, 4, 6. I suppose 1 carburetor for each 2 cylinders. I suppose that would be right. Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. Again, step 31, yet more components. So as we go through, there's a lot to this engine assembly here, and it's not until step 34 actually that we get to the dashboard. And I'm delighted to see actually that we have an option to be left hand or right hand drive. How fantastic! That's super. I'm delighted by that. So we're looking at A77 here, and that is it. And A78. So yes, you have 2 components. So you have to be careful here. 78 is for right-hand drive. So excellent, you can do a UK variant of this with A77. So there are, decal-wise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 13 decals to put in here, and the founding detail here is nice looking. I think we can make a good job of this. I don't think there's any doubt about that. There we go from the dashboard right the way through to the pedals. So left hand drive, right hand drive. So we have to have our wits about us, although we will. What's happened there? Oh, my light's gone off. There we are. That's back on again. This is the show with no script and no cuts. It's all live. Then we're into the transmission tunnel components, so that's the gear stick and handbrake, and you've got left hand, right hand drive options here. Now it looks like this is the rear section. This is not a 2+2, this is a 2-seat car only, so this is just I suppose a parcel shelf or something like that. You might just about fit a violin on it maybe, but you perhaps wouldn't want to, maybe, I don't know. So there we go. So the passenger compartment, cabin components going on here. Some chromed up components here going on, and we're getting right near the end now. So left-hand drive variant dashboard being shown, put in there, and now we're starting to look at doors with the door handle. I think the door handles were, you move them up to lock them and push them down to unlock, something like that. I think it worked. And this is a strange device that people from, you know, newer than certain era won't recognise, and that's a window winding handle there. Normally you have a button that you press, but no, in those days we had a window winding handle. So there it is, and there's one on both sides. And putting your doors on, that's quite, you've got to be quite careful with that. Let's have a quick look at the, yeah, so and then putting the seats in, and then the assembly of the wheels is going to be quite intricate, because as you may have noticed, these are moulded with little crosses on them. So I'm going to guess that I'm going to guess that I'm going to have to cut them off. That's going to be quite detailed. Let's put that undercarriage section away there. So that's the wheels, and inserting wheels here. Let's have a look at those chrome components. I presume that we'll not have too much difficulty with them. I was wondering whether one might paint the chrome components. Oh, that's, I see what that's doing. We'll just cut that there, because this is not taped, it's been sealed shut. So I've heard reports that gluing chromed components can be quite difficult, but as you can see, there are rather a lot of them, and they shine very nicely. I'm not really sure whether one might, how shall we put it, whether one might place varnish on these, say a matte or a gloss varnish. I suppose one would. I don't suppose it would do any damage. And I know I've heard, I think some people say that it's a good idea to scrape all this stuff off and then paint it. I'm not sure I want to do that for my first attempt. I think what I'm going to do is play it according to Hoyle and put in all the chromed components as they are, and then see where we go, see what happens. But your advice from Modelling Land on whether one varnishes chrome components would be most welcome. I would probably use something like Mr. Colour GX, the super clear gloss varnish, which I think does, when you gloss things, come up really rather nicely. We'll see anyway. So yeah, in the last steps here, we are really down to putting on the transparent components, putting on some of the chrome components, some of the remains of the chrome components, of which there are plenty, and the headlamps here, and various other sub-assemblies, wing mirrors, again chrome components in there. Windscreen wipers, or yeah, there are windscreen wipers. In fact, there are 3 windscreen wipers. Didn't know that. There you go. You learn things all the time by doing modelling, don't you? It's fantastic. So there we are, and then after that you're into pretty much the realms of a completed model, which I think should look rather nice. The challenge, I suspect, is going to be to achieve a glossy finish on this, and the plastic is jolly smooth, I have to say. There are some marks, some tells on the moulding that come through, just from, for example, this thin section here comes through as a mark here. You can probably make it out, just one there and one there. Now I wonder if that will show through. It doesn't feel like it's a yes, there's a legend there, so that may have to be sanded so it's so it doesn't show through. Otherwise, when you paint it, you paint these things gloss, and I'm going to guess that that sort of a mark would show up like a absolute sore thumb. Interestingly, noticing here, this part of the bonnet is chrome here, and I suspect this is the built model, by the way. This is a plastic line here. Now that will mean that actually painting that a chrome colour is going to be quite important. Oh dear, there's just a little bit of damage on that. I just noticed that. Just a tiny little bit of, let's see if we can make that there. It's a tiny little bit of damage on that, which looks like it might have been a sprue gate or something like that. It's just slightly damaged. I wonder if that's going to cause a problem. We'll just have to see, won't we? That's all we can do. There's some slight moulding legends in this, and again, I'm being ultra critical about this because with a tank or an aircraft or something like that, you can hide some of this under weathering, but if you're going to build a classic car, I don't think it needs to be weathered all that much, to be truthful. And I'd rather make it look, shall we say, brand new. So I may need to carefully attack this with some very smooth sandpaper. That flexible sandpaper on sponge would be a good idea. I think that would probably work quite well. And see if we can make that finish extremely well. As we can see, it's the same with the, see, that fits into there like that. I'm just thinking ahead here. That fits into that little dot there like that. I'll just drop that there. So that shows us how long the vehicle. It's quite a nicely sized vehicle. That's quite a nicely sized model. And I see it's got the doors actually are already moulded on. I thought the doors were separate. So we're going to have to do something. I may deepen these marks here, these legends here. Probably, if I'm going to do that, I'll use one of these CMK little saws. That would be a good way of going about this, I think. But since this is an absolute gap, I think it's probably wise to have them slightly deeper if at all possible. If anything, too deep, and then I'll use some panel line on this to try and make that look a bit more realistic. Yes, the back of this is going to need some work. There's some moulding deficiency here. I can show you that. As you can see, oh, that's very clear there. You can see that very clearly. There's a moulding deficiency here which is going to have to be taken out, and that extends from there all around to there, all there. You can see this is doesn't appear to be any good reason why that would have happened, but I'm going to guess that one of the injectors for the mould, oh, there's a mister on there, hang on. One of the injectors for the mould was perhaps over here somewhere, and one maybe was perhaps, I don't know, over here somewhere, and this is the cold section of that mould where this plastic was beginning to set and met this plastic which was beginning to set, and this has created this line here. Maybe that's happened, I don't know, but that is going to need some work. It's going to need some work on the top here as well. One of the things I may just do is run over some grey Mr. Surfacer primer, just quite thin Mr. Surfacer primer, which should pull up all these marks really very quickly before I even get to putting some assembly onto this, so that I can get this bit right. I think that would be the thing to do. There will be some challenges here, I think, particularly on this here. I'm trying very hard not to hit my hopefully you were able to see all of that, but there are going to be some challenges on this section here, and I'm hopeful that we can have some success here, but I'd like to at least have a crack at this. and being my first car, I'm going to be throwing myself upon the mercies of modelling land, particularly those good people like Got Fuel's Motor Car Garage, who've been doing this sort of thing for as long as perhaps I've been alive, actually. Although perhaps he's only in his very late 30s, maybe, Brian over at Got Fuels, but he's very good with this sort of finishing of these kind of models, and he may have some experience on this sort of thing, so it might be worthwhile visiting him. But there we are. Anyway, so a Jaguar E-Type, a classic motor car, one that I think I want to make this. I want to build this kit. I'm really quite impressed by what I see in most of the areas, but I think there'll be some challenges in some areas, let's put it like that. So there we are. So let's carefully put that away like this. I think that's kind of the way it went. Was it like that? No, it was like that, wasn't it? Sort of like that, but we'll put it in its little bag anyway, or put it in a bag. Oh no, that was the bag for the... No, it wasn't. Yeah, we'll put it in there anyway. That'll do it. That'll protect it as much as it needs it. Someone's probably saying in modelling land, that's not what that bag came in. That didn't come in that bag. But anyway, be that as it may. I will conclude just very briefly by saying to you that those of you watching the Canberra video, I lost this door, so I'm going to have to make another one, hence this piece of plastic on here, which is now being bent to shape, as it were. So that's that. And we'll come back to that with another video at some stage, but this is on the bench at some stage in the not too far distant future. Do feel free to look at my Substack article about about Jaguar particularly, but and not specifically about the E-Type, and let me know what you think, and I shall look forward to seeing you all on the next one and say thank you very much. Okay, take care for now. Bye bye.